Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, up to this point in Luke chapter 6 that we're looking at, Jesus has been speaking in the synagogues in the region of Galilee. He's been speaking to people from a boat there on the seashore there at Capernaum. But we have no recorded message until we come to chapter 6, and we have this long first recorded message by Luke here in Luke chapter 6. And Jesus, as he begins speaking, he first primarily looks at the disciples, it says, and he looks and fixes his eyes on them and begins to speak. But of course, as we know from the text, the multitudes are surrounded, they're listening too. And Jesus shocks them, because he starts saying, blessed are, happy are. Now, I'm sure what you would think he would say, because they're thinking he is the Messiah. He's going to bring us real joy. He's going to free us from the Romans, the millennial blessings that we've heard about in the Old Testament and read about and studied about. They're about to happen. Wow! We are going to be the happiest people on earth. And he looks at them and says, blessed are the poor. Blessed are those that are weeping. Blessed are those who are hated. What? It just throws them for a loop, I'm sure. But he's trying to tell them our happiness is not bound in this world on circumstances or people or even ourselves. It is based on our relationship with God and our attitude toward all these things. And so he's dealing with now the attitude we should have toward circumstances that are around us. And he speaks after he gives those blessings there in the first verses 20 through 23, he now gives some warnings of some woes. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full, for you shall hunger. Woe to you who laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. And so these beatitudes are followed by these woes. And you can imagine these worldly, successful, affluent people in our world even today would not like to hear what Jesus is saying at this point, because we think and we are bought, sold, and believe that real happiness comes from having things and being famous, etc. Now, for sure, Jesus here, as he looks at the things that he's speaking of, he's actually looking at the things that people covet that are really a hindrance to our growth in our spiritual life. The first and the second woe are directed at those who are prosperous in life. Woe to you who are rich, for you've received your consolation. Woe to you that are full. You've got everything you think you want, for you shall hunger. Maybe even physically you're full. You shall hunger. And so he said, you're receiving your comfort now. You're making that your goal in life. That's what you're living for. But my friend, one day you will not have those things. You will lose it. Woe to you who think you can have it now and have it again later. No, there's a price to pay to receive it now, but you get it now and have your consolation, your comfort, but that's it. And then the third woe is directed at those who are pleased with this life. Woe to you who laugh now, for you shall mourn and weep. And so some people just live for a laugh, live for a joke, live to have a good time, live for pleasure. But Jesus is saying that's not what you should be living for. Jesus himself was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. He looked at the world around him and he didn't laugh. Matter of fact, we have no recorded instant in the New Testament where Jesus laughed. Now, I'm sure he probably did with his disciples from time to time, but we have nothing recorded that he did, because he was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. He saw sin-sick people, hurting people, people in bondage. He saw cities headed for destruction, and a soul of a man headed for destruction in hell for eternity. And it broke his heart. The heart of God was broken. And we can read about that in the book of Habakkuk. And so we see the first three woes. And then we see the fourth woe is directed at those who are popular in this life. Woe to you when all men speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. And you seek your joy, your happiness, and you covet being popular, having the most people watching your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook post, and that just brings you some kind of real satisfaction. And if that's what you live for, that's your source of security, Feel sorry for you, because Jesus said it's not going to last, and you're going to miss what really is important, and that is your reward in heaven. You see, this is what is important Jesus is speaking about, and that is live for eternity. Keep your eyes fixed on your relationship with God. Yes, there's nothing wrong with being rich, having all these things, but my friend, what really matters is that you live for eternity and you live for the Lord. Well, God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.